Has this ever happened to you? If so, then you might be a courier. And if you are, then hit that subscribe button. Today I wanted to talk about the Mojave Wasteland from Fallout New Vegas. Specifically, which encounters with creatures from that wasteland would you survive? So obviously we should start at the bottom and then work our way to the top where death claws are. So let's say at the very bottom we have rad roaches and blowflies. Now in Fallout 3 we were shown to be easily able to dispose of rad roaches with a BB gun. And kind of the same scenario with blowflies. They're not very tough, they're more of a nuisance if anything. And so the giant mantis, what are they, mantises? Something like that. Those guys, I don't imagine they're going to be really much of a threat either, just because, sure, they can get big, but they're kind of just a mantis. A mantis I know will want to throw hands, so probably something like a bat would do just about enough. I think it would be fine just punching one or kicking one, just because they kind of are frail, they have thin bodies, so it's not like they can take a whole lot of force without one of those limbs snapping. Hell, even in the game, you're just running around and stepping on them, and that's working. So the mantis I would put in the same range as the rad roach and the bloatflies. As long as you have a BB gun, you're probably okay. So moving on to the rad scorpions and the bark scorpions. Again, I wouldn't really consider the bark scorpions a threat, but the rad scorpions, they're kind of in there. They're kind of getting to that threatening level. Considering that most scorpions in the real world don't want anything to do with you, and they just want to be left alone, I would imagine it's the same deal with the bark scorpions. They're just really big. So the little red scorpions, I would say pretty good fight, as long as you have a decent gun, maybe something like a 9 or something of that same caliber and punch to really get through that exoskeleton of theirs. The giant red scorpions, I would give them that same range just because they're a bigger version of that. You would probably want something a little bit heftier, like a 45, or maybe start getting into the hunting calibers. Hell, even a shotgun would probably do some wonders on that thing. And realistically, they're not going to be moving at the speed that Fallout New Vegas has them, so you probably have a good chance of running away even if you didn't have anything to stop them. So starting with the small fries again, we got the geckos. And those are coming in a variety of colors and flavors. So we got your typical geckos, we got your gecko hunters, we got green geckos, golden geckos, there's fire geckos. So excluding the obvious bullshit ones, the regular geckos, the golden geckos, and the green geckos, those are all I would consider manageable and pretty easy to take care of on your own. So again, those are kind of more like a nuisance and a pest, because they're just big lizards and they bite and they scratch you and stuff, but they're not really threatening. You could probably punt one or something, and I imagine realistically a 22 would be really effective against them, considering they're not really armored, they're just scaly. So jumping over to the fire geckos, those ones are a fucking problem. So the fire geckos obviously breathe fire, because of course they do, and these guys have a pretty decent range. So I mean, as long as you're pretty good distance away, you could probably take care of them, no sweat. But in a situation where you're getting swarmed by them, you're gonna need something more than that little Red Ryder BB gun, my friend. Something more like a varmint rifle, but realistically you would want to go for something semi-auto and with decent range. So like a service rifle, or maybe something like a marksman carbine, because those can get pretty fast fire rates and considerably range worthy. So moving on from the geckos, we have mongrels. Now these guys are part of the Legion's fleet. So these mongrels are pretty much beefed up dogs. So in reality, they're kind of like just a wolf mixed with a hound dog. So for those, you would probably want something, again, fast fire rate, but also something that deals a considerable amount of damage. So maybe like a riot shotgun or some semi-auto shotgun in the real world. Because a 22, it can do decent damage to a small creature like a gecko, but to a wolf, it might not do a whole lot of damage in an instant to where it'll immediately knock it out of the fight. And there's plenty of scenarios where a 22 or 22 caliber, sorry, will go straight through maybe like a hog or something. And the hog just doesn't give a shit. The Night Stalkers! I almost forgot about the Night Stalkers. So those guys are the same deal as the coyotes, but they're also venomous and also invisible. But I think again, they would probably be something like a territorial creature. So I wouldn't imagine them putting up a huge fight unless you're really provoking them. All in all, it would probably be something more like hunting worthy, which I know a lot of you guys would probably just see one of those, either leave it alone, or you'd be like, hey, that'd be a cool mantelpiece. So moving up from there, I want to go to Lake Lurks. Now these guys are probably the most bullshit out of this entire list because they have a psychic blast that they can hit you with that disorients you and deals a ton of damage. I don't know what kind, maybe psychological. Not only that, but they can also spit this glob at you. It's pretty gross. And they're pretty vicious up close too. They got a mean punch considering they're just a beefed up thing from the Black Lagoon guy. And they usually come in packs, so I don't see any scenario where you're by yourself with any kind of weaponry against a whole horde of them where you come out on top. Now if you're picking them off from a distance with something silenced, then maybe I would consider it a win, but realistically these guys are gonna know something's up because they seem pretty intelligent for what they are. And especially if you're near the water, these guys are gonna be moving fast as fuck, boy. And it's especially worse if you're in the water because there's no chance of fighting back from that. Now moving up from there, I want to go to the really obvious one where there's no way you're gonna win, the Cazadors. And these guys are essentially just tarantula hawk wasp, and they don't have any armor aside from their exoskeleton. They fight with what God gave them, which is a potent venom. I'm talking so potent that this shit works on robots somehow. And not to mention these guys are fast as fuck. I don't care how much anti-venom you got with you, that shit's not gonna save you, man. And of course these things fly in packs too, so I mean, it's just a big fuck you from God at that point. It's worth pointing that the Cazadors in real life, the tarantula hawk wasps, have a venom that supposedly puts people into a state of paralysis. And if that's not enough to convince you that the Cazadors in Fallout New Vegas are going to be completely bullshit, then I don't know what is. So Deathclaws, could I take one? Yeah, probably. In a fight? No. So I don't care who you are, Doc Mitchell, he can work miracles, he can save you from a bullet to the head, but he can't save you from that ass whooping that's coming. The Deathclaws in Fallout New Vegas are so scary. You're gonna be playing the game running around like this, zoomed out all the way, if you know what I'm saying. The first time I encountered the Deathclaws in Quarry Junction, they put the fear of God in me. And it was especially terrifying when I killed all of the young ones and the regular ones, and I got to see Satan walking around. Holy hell, that put a whole new level of fear in me. And on top of that, then they have the mom who has the little ones following her. That terrified me, man. So 50 BMG realistically is gonna do wonders on these things, but who's gonna have the time to rack one of those rounds and kill one if they're charging at you with the full speed of ass whooping coming at you? Now, if you're asking me, would I rather fight a Cazador or a Deathclaw? I'd probably go with a Deathclaw because they make it quick. They'd come up behind me and just smack the goofy out of my ass. The Cazador would come up, sting me once, and then sting me again when I'm already on the floor paralyzed, convulsing because the venom's kicking my shit. So yeah, would I rather fight a Deathclaw over a Cazador? Yes. Is there a scenario where one Cazador versus me and I come out on top? Probably. Is there any scenario where it's one Deathclaw versus me? Nah, not in a million years. Unless he's all the way over there and I'm right here and I got BMGs out the ass, I don't think I'm winning. And the likelihood of encountering one Deathclaw versus a whole field of them. Nah, ain't no way, Chief. This ain't it. Whew, it is hot in here. Patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter. So super mutants and Nightkin, probably in the same range as a Deathclaw, just because they're intelligent, they're strong, they're fast, and just the super mutants themselves, they seem like a hell of a fighter. Not to mention they come loaded with machine guns, miniguns, rockets, stuff like that, super sledges, a big stick. And the Nightkin are the same thing except invisible, so I really wouldn't imagine any scenario where we're coming out on top against them. So anyways, I think I covered all of the enemies in Fallout New Vegas, at least the vanilla mode. I'll go and do the one about the DLCs later, but for now this is the list that I'm doing. And if I missed one, sorry, let me know. I'll include them in the next video or something like that. Now you're probably wondering why I excluded the ghouls. Well, I have to have something to talk about in the Fallout 3 video, so I'll leave them for that. And this is excluding human enemies because those, of course, it's humans. We know more or less how capable those are killing us. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next video. And remember,